People, speaking of the October surprise that I don't believe is an October surprise. Okay, we're going to go through this. There was a breaking story yesterday on Twitter. The guy's name, I don't want to get accused of identity politics, but the dude's handle is called Black Insurrectionist. I follow back True Patriots, and his handle is at DocNet YouTube. This individual came out and said, I've got a breaking story. I've been approached by, as of August, even before Walz was the pick from Harris, that this individual, DocNet YouTube, was approached by someone claiming to be a victim of some sexually improper conduct by Tim Walz that extended over a substantial period of time when this individual was underage. Okay.
The dude has put out a thread yesterday alleging that he's got, breaking demonstrable definitive evidence of this illegal, sexually improper underage relationship. I got to drop it on Sunday. I got to get, all this other stuff. If you've got it, you do it before something happens. Suspicious. It doesn't matter. So I'm naturally suspicious of everything and everyone. The drop came yesterday. It was 17 give or take emails, but I've looked it over this morning and I figure I'm going to do the summary of it. Extraordinary, wild claims come out. People espouse them. People retweet them. They end up getting sued for defamation for having retweeted them or repeated them. We can go back to the 2020 election in terms of for all the electoral impropriety that occurred in 2020, some statements were objectively false. And we said it from the beginning, these people are going to get into trouble for saying objectively and demonstrably false statements that could conceivably tarnish reputations. Barnes and I said it, and it ended up happening. I did say at the outset of this, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. These are extraordinary claims that this individual came out with, and the evidence that they have provided, aside from being questionable, even assuming that it's all accurate and true, is underwhelming in a very, very meaningful perspective. It reeks of one of those either operations or potential inadvertent events where people are going to get caught repeating this, retweeting it, reaffirming it, and it's going to turn out to be bunk or even worse, a lie, and people are going to get sued for defamation for having repeated some of these per se defamatory statements, unless they're true. So this is the account, Black Insurrectionist. I follow back True Patriots. DocNet YouTube. Tim Walz post number 3. The guy says, look, this now adult got in touch with me in August, before Walz was even the pick, and said back in 94 to 98 or 96 to 98, 95 to 98, I had an underage, illegal sexual relationship of the homosexual nature with Tim Walz. Tim Walz, post number 3, on August 9th, I received this email. This email caused me to act. I did indeed call the person making the claims. He laid out a story that was very incredulous. I told him he would need to lay out everything in writing for me in depth and detail. He agreed to over the next. They become pretty graphic. Okay. The email says, Doc, I'm sorry to be bothering you. If you could just hear me out, I can prove what I'm saying. I'm not doing this for attention. I'm not doing this to relive one of the worst times of my life. I'm doing this because I cannot emotionally or physically take seeing this man almost daily over the next 4 years. Here we got a community note on this particular tweet. It says there are multiple errors in this tweet indicating that the email is not real. I mean, this is where it's a war of information on the internet. It's the Wild West. It's democratizing access to information. Some of these accounts are totally anonymous, which is also, not a cause for concern. You can understand why people want to be anonymous. Bottom line, I don't know who this person is, what their credentials are. Registered Republican Deep State Director and FBI's parody, Harris 24. The devil's always in the details. Here are some inconsistencies with the alleged emails. First problem, exhibit A and B. In the screenshot on the left, you see Friday, August 9. While in the email on the right side, it says Thursday, August 8, without a comma after Thursday. Additionally, Proton Mail, like most email platform, omits the time zone in the date and timestamp exhibit C, where it says October 13. The time is not shown. Furthermore, the date timestamp format is inconsistent between screenshots. Proton does not use the leading 0 before single-digit hour stamps. For example, 607, not 06. Also, according to Proton Mail header format listed on the website, this is inconsistent. And so you can see certain things Friday with a comma, and then later on you see Thursday without a comma. You got some suspicion as to the credibility or the authenticity of the evidence. Even if it is all true, it's still wildly underwhelming and won't say recklessly so, but I wouldn't be the one affirming that this is definitively true, and it might explain why this individual might be doing this through an anonymous account. Post number 7. I asked the individual to put into a letter what happened when he went to the Indigo Girls concert. This letter has some graphic details. He sent it as an attachment. I did see a few grammatical errors, but I did not change other than redact his personal information. The letter is rated G compared to the details I would later get from this individual. Furthermore, the second page was cropped, so it would be easier to read. This letter was about 1 1/4 pages long. It says he went to a concert. got tired, doesn't remember why, remembers dancing with walls. I mean, this is a Word document screen grab. That is the evidence, and I'll put that in quotes, and it goes into some detail. It says allegedly on the way home they went to a gay bar, and then the kid remembers some hazy memories, doesn't remember things, remembers other things, a little fellatio involved in this. Then he woke up. I would continue to see Mr. Walls during 95. I spent a lot of time with him whenever I could. I can't remember the exact date, but I moved to another county in the summer of 95. My parents were becoming suspicious. In September of 95, he came to see me. We were drinking. We got out that night. We got into an argument when I found out he planned on taking another student to an Indigo Girls concert. On that night, he left very angry. That's the night he got pulled over for the DUI. It was, in fact, in 95, but that doesn't mean anything other than this is either a meticulously crafted lie or it actually coincides and we might need to just, have more definitive evidence. Called me, told me what happened. He said he was going to be fired from his job at the time. It was in a different school district. This is when I started to learn I was not gay. I would never admit to my parents what happened. Okay, that's it. That's the letter. That's the evidence that he's dropping is a screen grab of an alleged document that he allegedly received from an anonymous, as of now, person that contacted him. And I don't cast aspersions on black insurrectionists. He might believe this and not realize he's getting played, if he isn't potentially getting played, in a way that's going to discredit him and anybody else who espouses this story, in the exact same way this has been done throughout history of the government. First of all, here, just to corroborate the dates, Governor Walz faces renewed scrutiny over 1995 drunk driving arrest. This is when he was well over the legal limit, driving 95 miles an hour, pleaded guilty to reckless driving, and never drank again, apparently. One of the elements that black insurrectionist raises is that he allegedly reached out to the Kamala Harris campaign. A few of these tweets are screen grabs of him submitting his request for information or a question to the campaign, whatever. It doesn't mean very much. And at the time that he did this, a story came out that we talked about over the weekend, the story of Tim Walz and Gwen Walz taking a gay student to an Indigo concert in 95, 96. The black insurrectionist takes this to mean that, the camp got wind of this, and then they had some journalists. Let me pull up that article. Tim Walz and his wife Gwen took a gay student to an Indigo Girls concert in the 90s. Spokesperson for Gwen Walz told the New York Times that she and her husband had grown close to a gay student at the Nebraska Public High School where they taught. Set aside the whole sexual impropriety thing, and we've talked about this. This is already weird. Like, teachers taking gay students to rock concerts because they're gay is weird. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz vies for the U.S. presidency. New details are surfacing about his teaching career, including the impact he made on a faculty advisor for a high school alliance club. However, sources say the Walz family were LGBTQ plus community boosters even before then, as especially evidenced by one extracurricular Indigo Girls concert where the Walz taught in Nebraska. A former student of both Walz and Gwen, Ne Whipple, both teachers at Mankato West High School in the 90s, described feeling stunned when Walz announced her husband would be leading the Gay Student Association, I guess. Having Tim Walz as the advisor of the Gay Straight Alliance, sorry, not the Gay Student Association, Gay Straight Alliance, made me feel safe coming to school. It seems to have been Gwen who also understood the raw importance of LGBTQ plus alliance in the mid-90s. A spokesperson for Walz confirmed to the Times that the couple chaperoned the anonymous student at an Indigo Girls concert, truly one of the decade's strongest bastions of queer community camaraderie. That's interesting. I think that story in and of itself is very suspicious. Written by Samantha Rydell. It would be interesting if black insurrectionists had reached out to Samantha to see when she started working on that story. Either way, black insurrectionist takes this to be colluding, coinciding information that they're trying to get ahead of the story that they know this guy's going to drop. And so that's suspicious in and of itself. You can either come to that conclusion or not. I think that story is suspicious in and of itself, but I don't think that is by any means extraordinary evidence of the story that we saw in that screen grab of an alleged attachment to this email. Some of the other evidence that black insurrectionist thinks confirms this story or corroborates this story. Apparently, Walz resigned from his position teaching, and it was approved unanimously by the Board of Education. This is post number 11. Here is page 4 of the minutes of the Board of Education voting unanimously to accept the resignations of Gwen Walz, Tim Walz, and another gentleman. The other gentleman mentioned is not significant. There is a possible tie in with him in a later post when I get into the summaries. And then here you have what I purport appear to be the minutes of the meeting. You have everybody who's present, called the meeting, 7:30 p.m., receiving communication and guests, okay. A motion was made by Cornish and seconded by Aldinger to approve the consent calendar consisting of the minutes of the resignations. A motion was made by Aldinger and seconded by Moore to accept the resignations of Tim Walz, Gwen Walz, and Byron Green. The motion was carried 6-0. What does that prove? Not to rehash the UHF, absolutely nothing. Not very much, other than they resigned from their positions and it was approved 6-0, because presumably when you're a board member or whatever, sometimes there's a formality that you have to resign. They have to fill the vacancy. They got to paper the minute books. The theory by Black insurrectionists is that they resigned because of the scandal of the story. What the third person has to do with that may or may not contradict that theory. If he says it's an unrelated third person who's also resigning, might just be people resigning. But there's no definitive correlation other than the presumed correlation that this had something to do with the scandal. Post number 12. The previous post was the school board minutes accepting the resignation of Tim Walz on July 1st, 1996. Some people said this proves nothing. Well, on its face, it doesn't. Okay, that's great. Insurmountable, extraordinary evidence to evidence an extraordinary claim. When the parents of the abuser made a complaint, that would be something to see. Where is that? The school board had a meeting in March 1996. At this meeting, they directed Tim Walz to take professional leave. This leave was to seek treatment for alcoholism, and the, quote, private minutes of his second board was not released. His DUI was in 95, not in March of 96. There might be some things here that don't make sense temporally. A motion was made by CPOM and seconded by Cornish to approve the professional leave request by Tim Wallace. The motion carried unanimously 6-0. This is in March of 1996. That seems more plausibly just related to his DUI potentially and the embarrassment that might cause for the school. Take professional leave, go get the help you need, and resign. And we'll all approve it instead of having you fired for DUI and that type of behavior. There's nothing connecting it to the allegations, which is, as of yet, a screen grab of an alleged attachment of a story that is weak on details, weak on memory, and contains some allegations of physical attributes of Tim Walz, which people say you would only know if you've had intimate relationships with, a bump on his chest, a Chinese tattoo somewhere, a scar on his forearm. Others might say that might also just, be things that you might have seen from Coach Walz playing soccer or football, whatever the heck they were playing. This is where I start getting very, very suspicious, because this looks like a moving goalpost of the accusations. I received some more documents last night. I expect more today. Tim Walz falsified his resume. Who cares? That wasn't the issue here. He's falsified other documents and stories he told the media. Okay, that's definitive. We don't need potentially fake stories about sexual improprieties if they're not true. We already know that stuff. Many of you probably know that Gwen has admitted that they did not conceive their child through IVF. Okay, nothing to do with an alleged underage gay relationship with a student. Okay, so he's a liar in other respects, so that somehow lends credibility to this document. He's decided to make a public statement of the alleged victim, unsigned. I'm going to make a public statement anonymously. That's not a public statement. That's the extent of it. I'm skeptical. I actually think that this might be either someone who is a true believer and wants to believe and is suspending disbelief for the purposes of promoting the story. It could be a clout grab. It could be deliberate psyop, COINTELPRO type disinformation. Get credible right-wing conservative accounts to retweet this story, get them sued for defamation, get them discredited in the public eye, and use that as fodder heading into November election.